Jump in this thing and see what it'll do.
You ready to rock this, bro?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only it sucks of the freaking.
So what do you girls think of the new car, huh? Tails are wagging, that's good. And we got it home. Now we can get inside the trunk, which we were already inside of it, but now we can actually dig through it. See what kind of goodies we got in here. Bam! So we got the radio, that's the water pump pulley that was missing. Look, here's all the interior trim. Armrest. Oh, there's the front side, or the front marker lights. Here's all the headlight stuff. Oh, look, we got all the hardware in Dixie cups. Wait, let's get all these out of here. Are these Dixie cups? They sure look like a home sweet home. Yes, you are. All right. Ooh. No. I like door number 1. Let's see what's behind door number 2. Ooh, more. Yep, each cup. Yep, looks like each cup is full of. Oh, there's the springs for the headlights. Got more hardware. Yep. Okay. So there's all the hardware. It looks like for the front grille assembly and the grille support, side marker, or the front marker lights. So there's all the missing hardware. Sweet. Oh, we got an air grabber. We gotta get this. Oh yeah. Sweet. Oh, that thing is mint. Dude, this guy out of here. I'll go ahead and put all the grill assembly and everything back together while it's on the trailer. There's the radio, which just has to be the radio because the radio's missing. More headlight trim bezel. Alright, well, I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing cleaned out. See what kind of goodies is in here. Well, everything's out. This trunk is freaking amazing. Like this looks like rust, it's not. That's just dirt. Freaking trunk is awesome. This is about as good as they get for being 50 years old. I think partly, if you notice, this side here is dry, this side here looks a little wet. It's because an oil container had broken because it was plastic and deteriorated. So oil saturated half of this trunk and it kind of preserved this half better than this half. That's why this is yeller, this is not. But it's still rock solid, it's just not yellow anymore. But man, this car is just amazing on how good a condition it's in. Bahama yellow, 383 4-speed air grabber Roadrunner. Man, this thing is good. Look, like this is the only rust I've seen in the car so far. Just around the back window, and that's not even rust, really. That's just, I guess that's nature styling points. Badass car. I mean, I love my Chargers, but seeing a Roadrunner in this condition, unrestored, all original paint, is pretty freaking cool. I got the whole grill assembly and the hood latch and all the, so I'm gonna go ahead and bolt all that stuff together now, just so it looks more complete, and I'll throw everything back in the trunk. But yeah, here's all the parts. We got a little bias ply white wall tire that was on there. That's what was on this car. Not originally, of course. Originally it probably had, but it did have the breather. We got the trunk latch, got the water pump pulley. So the only thing I'm really missing from this car is the base for the air cleaner. And let's see, base for the air cleaner, carburetor, radiator. Yeah, so that's all I'm missing. So this car is damn near 100% complete except for air cleaner base, carburetor, and radiator. Oh, and of course seats. Seats are missing. But who gives a shit? I'll take a solid car like this over seats any day. Well, let me go ahead and get this grill bolted together so I can go ahead and put this thing in storage. Alrighty, guys. What do you think, Sam? Good? Wag that tail if it's good. Yeah, that's right. Alright, got the grill all bolted together. That's less stuff in the trunk, and actually all the hardware was there to do it. All the correct bowls, screws, springs, everything was all in the little Dixie cups. Awesomeness. I think we're gonna go ahead and get this thing running and driving real quick, just so it's easier to move around. Sweet. Well, that's it for this car. Well, at least for now anyway. I gotta throw this thing up in storage because I have a shit ton of customer stuff that I need to catch up on. So I got it. I'll dump it in storage. Or actually, no, I don't even have storage anymore. I actually have my own property now. So I sold a bunch of cars. You guys probably saw that on eBay, Facebook, whatever. I needed a place to put all my other cars. So I actually ponied up, sold a few cars, and bought this property. So now I got my own place to put my junk. Well, so long for now, guys. See ya. Hey, curiosity is getting the best of me. I want to know if this Roadrunner will run. So really shouldn't be working on it because I got a whole bunch of other shit I got to do. But the only reason I'm even thinking about it is because Smurf right over there and the General over there are gonna be down here pretty soon. Gonna be stealing the motor out of Smurf, which is a 500 horsepower 440, and we're gonna be throwing that into the General, which by the time it hits the General, it'll probably be about 550 horse. So General's gonna be freaking awesome. Oh, that's gonna be sweet. Because right now the General's kind of lazy and is a pig. And then I'm building a new blower motor for Smurf. But thinking this, I'm like, well, I've got a good reliable diesel truck sitting over there, but it's just not cool to drive, and I want to be cool. So I'm thinking we'll just take this Roadrunner right here, and while those will be down, this will be up, or Eliminator, one or the other. So curiosity is getting the best of me, and I have already done a few things to get this car, see if it would fire. You know, the typical things you need to do to a motor that's been sitting for a while. I've already, well, see, the intake was kind of full of dirt and dust. Obviously, it matches the rest of the car. I mean, full of pine needles and dirt and dust and everything. And it's been sitting without a carburetor for many, many, many years. So what I have done is, I pulled the valve covers, loosened the rocker shafts on both sides, so that way the valves will be up on all the cylinders. And then I took an air gun and blew all the dirt and dust out of the intake manifold. So it's not gonna get all of it, but at least I get the big chunks, which some dirt and dust did come out of it. Then the next thing I did was, and I did all this last night, anticipating that I would try and get it to run, which I should have recorded this, but I didn't. I pulled the distributor. And then, when pulling distributor, I found it had new points. It's obviously got a new cap. Wires don't look new, but it'll work. Pulled the distributor, and then I pulled the gear out. There's a gear attached that is what actually drives the oil pump, which that gear is driven by the cam. And pulled that out, and then I got there's like a long hexagon shaft, probably about 2 feet long. It attaches to a drill. So stick that in there, it'll hit the oil pump, pull the trigger, it'll prime the entire motor. So the entire engine's been primed. And then while the rocker shafts were loose, I went ahead and put Lucas all over the rocker shafts. So the motor's been prepped to run, at least so it won't get damaged. And then I've sprayed PB blaster all down that intake and spun the motor over a few times to try and get the rings all lubricated and whatever else, and which I think it worked out pretty good, because this side here, oh, lost me. This side here, when cranking, I could feel suction on my hand. It'd be like, so I know the driver's side bank was pulling. The passenger side wasn't really pulling that well until I sprayed the PB blaster in there and let it sit for a while and then cranked it over. Then both sides were pulling good. So maybe it was some dirt and whatever, it got stuck in the valve or whatever. It's free now. So now we have ourselves a brand new AVS2 Edelbrock carburetor. That's a 650 model, so this is not really a Wazoo motor, which if this thing does run and it doesn't need to be rebuilt, what I plan on doing is just doing, I at least want to put a water pump, an oil pump, and a new cam in it. I mean, just a really mild cam and new valve springs. Just the basics, as long as the motor doesn't smoke and all that crap. If you notice, there's no radiator. I didn't want to go through all that hassle and find out the motor fired up and clattered and clunked and knocked like hell. So this right here is just to let it run for 30 seconds to see if it's going to clatter, clunk, knock like hell. All right, so we got a battery in. I can't use the key to start it because it's missing the key, so I'll have to get a new ignition lock cylinder for the key. So I'm just have to jump the starter relay, and then I have got a little clickety-clack fuel pump right here that we're gonna hook up to the Edelbrock, and I'll probably put some Marvel Mystery Oil in the fuel that I'm gonna be running on this thing, and we'll see if this old girl has got some life left in it. If it does, this is gonna be a daily. We'll buff the paint out. I'll get the seats back in it and some interior stuff like that. I just make it a ratty driver. Oh, this car is freaking awesome. It's so original and so unmolested, and original paint rust free. Anyways, let's get this show on the road, huh? All right, now that the choke's out of the way, we can go ahead and drop our new Edelbrock AVS2 on here, which has the bigger annular booster, so it gets a better signal on the boosters, and which is for low end performance and for better throttle response. So we'll throw this on here, seeing as how it's not a very snappy motor, it's just a stock 383. So I just want it to be nice and snappy when I do get it running and driving. Hopefully it runs. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and bolt this sucker on. Get all our nuts and washers on. Not even gonna worry about throttle linkage or any of that crap right now until I hear this thing turn over. All right, so I've got my fuel supply here. Oops, I need to put a little more in there because I just turned it on to prime it. But if you'll notice, actually, let me get it out. It's a little red in color. It's because I've douched it with Marvel Mystery Oil. So for this thing firing for the first time, I wanted to be a little bit of lubrication in the just for the valves and the valve guides and piston rings and whatnot. So at least the Marvel Mystery Oil added a little bit of lubrication to that for a motor that hadn't been run in a long time, 30 years. So I just hit the fuel pump to see if it worked, and it sucked it all out and filled the carburetor up. So let me refill this, and then I guess there's nothing left to do, but I would say hit the key, but tilt the screwdriver on the relay, so we'll see if it'll fire up. So just give me 1 minute to recharge my fuel system here. All right, got my Kool-Aid potion ready again. So go ahead and stick this sucker down there. I hope this thing runs. It'd be freaking awesome if it does. Or at least runs on all 8 cylinders. So, all I gotta do, and this is all just temporarily Mickey Mouse. I mean, I got a wire running over to the balance resistor. I got a power wire running to the fuel pump. So I didn't want to waste a whole bunch of time and try and make this thing run if it didn't run. So we got the basics hooked up. Let's see what it does. Here, get the fuel pump and the ballast just recharged. There goes nothing. Oh, oh no way! there's no cooling system on it, but look at that thing. Hadn't run in 30 years and it's breathing fire again. All right. See if there's no knocking or nothing. Sounds pretty smooth to me. Oh, hell yeah. This thing's gonna need new plugs, new wires, but at least I know it's running on all 8. And it's probably gonna be smoking a lot. Actually, I probably guarantee it will, because I put a shit ton of Marvel Mist Oil in the exhaust, or in the fuel. And yeah, it's smoking. So, I think we're making a cloud in the street. So, it's gonna burn off all that Marvel Mist Oil. I mean, I used like half the bottle. But, it's alive. Fucking cylinder heads aren't even hot yet. Oh yeah. Alright, now that I know that this old girl runs, now I'll be willing to put forth the effort in putting a radiator in it, the pulleys, putting, well, pretty much everything it needs to make it a driver. So that's just the one thing I needed to know, is if the motor was any good. It didn't clunk, it didn't clatter, it didn't rod knock. Everything seemed good. So probably should put a cam in it, some valve springs, a water pump, and drive the sucker. So until then, the car is going to sit because I got to do a bunch of work, but at least I know I can pull this car out and make it a driver very easy. I got to get, one thing I do need to get is some seats. It's got no seats. I need to put the interior back together. I need to wash it, clean it, but it can be a driver. So look forward to seeing this car in the future. I don't have a name for it yet, but of course could just call it Roadrunner because I only got one Roadrunner. So I'll have to come up with a cool name for it. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll holler at you guys later. See ya.